In this video, I'm going to place an asterisk on every Super Bowl winner in the 21st century. If your team hasn't won a Super Bowl since 2000, then you should love this video. But if your team has won a Super Bowl, then prepare to be butthurt. 2000. The 2000 Ravens won the Super Bowl on the back of their famously dominant defense. The leader of that defense was Ray Lewis, who ended up winning Super Bowl MVP and Defensive Player of the Year and made many key plays throughout the season. The asterisk here is simply that Lewis should have been in instead of on the football field. There's no way the 2000 Ravens win without Lewis. 2001. Yes, now we get into the good shit. Where to start on the 2001 Patriots? First is the obvious Spygate scandal that tainted all three of their rings in the early 2000s, but you also have the Tuck rule, which was a terrible call that saved their season from ending in the divisional round like it should have. Simply put, if Tom Brady's fumble had been correctly ruled, there is no 2001 Super Bowl champion Patriots. We also can't forget about the uncalled intentional grounding penalty on Brady on his game-winning drive in Super Bowl 36. Damn, maybe I should make an entire video about Brady's cheating and luck. 2002. The 2002 Buccaneers had an all-time dominant defense on their own, but the asterisk here is how they got to face an Oakland Raiders team in the Super Bowl whose all-pro center Barrett Robbins went AWOL the night before the game, and whose coach Bill Callahan didn't even bother to change the offensive signals to try and fool former Raiders head coach and new Buccaneers head coach John Gruden. Tampa cruised to a blowout Super Bowl win thanks in large part to picking off Oakland quarterback Rich Gannon 5 times with 3 pick sixes. It didn't end up mattering in the end, but Tampa quarterback Brad Johnson also paid some guys $7,500 to scuff and break in the 100 footballs that were used in the Super Bowl. This isn't legal, by the way. 2003, Spygate. I'm not naive enough to think the Patriots were the only ones cheating during this time, but I'm also not going to ignore the fact that Roger Goodell ordered his minions to destroy all the Spygate tapes at New England's facility in 2007. For anybody who says New England didn't get any advantage from filming opponents' signals, just remember this. No team would continue to do something illegal unless it gave them advantages. As for tangible on-the-field matters, the 03 Patriots are responsible for the league reinforcing illegal contact rules defensively after their performance in the 2003 AFC Championship game. They illegally mugged and held Indianapolis's receivers all game long, which was a huge reason they advanced to the Super Bowl. Also, let's not ignore Tom Brady getting away with a shitload of dropped interceptions this postseason, and also John Casey's kick out of bounds. 2004, Spygate again. 2005. Seahawks fans will enjoy this one. The 2005 Steelers had a magical run to the Super Bowl thanks to 3 road playoff wins, but their 21-10 Super Bowl win over Seattle was tainted by several very questionable calls. Number 1, at the end of the first quarter, Seattle was at the Pittsburgh 17-yard line. Matt Hasselbeck found Darrell Jackson in the end zone for a touchdown, but Jackson was called for a controversial offensive pass interference. Seattle would have had a 7-0 lead, however, because of the penalty, they ended up only kicking a field goal. Number 2, on 3rd and goal at Seattle's 3-yard line at the end of the second quarter, down 3-0, historically dominant women respecter Ben Roethlisberger ran a bootleg. He dove towards the goal line and it was ruled a touchdown. After being reviewed, the play stood as called, but as a neutral observer with no dog in this fight, no offense to Michael Vick, it looks like the ball never crossed the goal line. And finally, number 3, at the start of the fourth quarter, Seattle trailing 14-10, Hasselbeck completed a pass that set up 1st and goal at Pittsburgh's 1-yard line, but Seattle was called for a hold on the play. Many argue there was no hold and that the Pittsburgh player being held, Clark Haggans, was also offsides. Seattle threw an interception 3 plays later. On top of this, on the interception return, Seattle was whistled for a low block, which gave Pittsburgh great field position that they would eventually score off of. So Seattle went from being 1 yard away from taking the lead to Pittsburgh being only 40 yards away from scoring. Is this just sour grapes on the part of Seattle fans? Maybe, but there's no denying the refs had an impact on the final result. Even the head ref from the game, Bill Levy, admits it. 2006. While there wasn't anything on the field specifically that happened to negate the Colts' Super Bowl win, there have long been accusations that the team pumped in artificial crowd noise to make it tougher on visiting teams. This would certainly have come in handy, no offense to Shaquem Griffin, for the 2006 AFC Championship game versus New England, which was played in Indianapolis. The Colts fell behind 21-3 early before rallying back to win 38-34. It was the largest blown playoff lead by New England in the Brady-Belichick era. While I thank Indy for taking down Tom Brady, it still needs to be said that they were helped on defense by the fake crowd noise. Indy also lucked out in getting to face the sex cannon Rex Grossman in a monsoon in Super Bowl 41 instead of Drew Brees. 2007. There's no doubting the 07 Giants were extremely fortunate in the playoffs. They made 3 fourth-quarter stops against an elite Dallas offense to win 21-17 in the divisional round. They made 3 more defensive stops stopped, but the score tied at 20 in the fourth quarter in overtime versus Green Bay in the NFC Championship to win that game 23-20. Then, of course, they needed the infamous Tyree catch in Super Bowl 42 to squeak by New England 17-14. The Tyree catch was an unquestionably lucky play, but does that mean that the title has an asterisk? Even if the pass was incomplete, New York still would have had the ball on fourth down. If you really want to give the 07 Giants an asterisk, you need to go back 2 years prior to the 2004 draft, where Eli Manning refused to play for the Chargers, who selected him first overall. Instead, he forced his way to New York. Do the 07 Giants win the Super Bowl without Eli Manning at quarterback? If you think they don't win it, then slap a big fat asterisk on both this and the 2011 title. 2008. The asterisk for the 08 Steelers isn't who they played, it's who they didn't have to play. No team was more impacted by the Patriots dynasty than the Steelers, as they lost 3 AFC Championship games to New England in 2001, 2004, and 2016, and in general just struggled mightily to stop Tom Brady with their shitty-ass zone defense. But in 2008, Brady went down with a torn ACL in Week 1, and Pittsburgh's boogeyman was gone for the year. When the teams met late in the season, Pittsburgh crushed New England on the road by 23. New England ended up missing the playoffs with an 11-5 record, which is a fluke, but without New England to worry about, Pittsburgh calmly cruised to Super Bowl 43 on the back of their defense. Ironically, it was the sluggish Pittsburgh offense that brought home the title with the infamous Santonio Holmes catch. The 08 Steelers were a great team, but Pittsburgh is one of the few franchises that Brady has actually played up to his GOAT reputation against. So if the 08 Pats with Brady had to play the 08 Steelers in the playoffs, I would have put my money on New England all day. 2009. This is an easy one with Bountygate. Yes, it's true New Orleans wasn't and isn't the only team to have a program that rewards illegal hits on opponents, but the fact remains in the 2009 NFC Championship game, they benefited mightily from Brett Favre being injured on several extremely dirty hits. Did these hits cause Favre to go full Favre and throw a terrible interception in field goal range at the end of the fourth? Who knows? But I also know it was a dirty hit on another Hall of Fame quarterback, Kurt Warner, in the divisional round that knocked him out of that game as well. Football is a violent sport and people get hurt, but injuries are supposed to be a byproduct, not the main goal. 2010. There's a few admittedly weak ways you can try and put an asterisk on Green Bay's 2010 title. The first is that Aaron Rodgers admitted in 2014 that he long preferred inflating footballs over the legal limit, which is unusual as most quarterbacks prefer deflated footballs. Could this have been the reason Rodgers was able to throw at such velocity during his 2010 Super Bowl run? Several huge throws he made in Super Bowl 45 were only completed due to him putting a ridiculous amount of spin on the ball. The other reason is that Green Bay got to face scrub quarterbacks like Todd Collins and Caleb Haney in the second half of the 2010 NFC Championship game instead of Jay Cutler. Cutler certainly wasn't a great quarterback, and he usually was terrible versus Green Bay, but he was still better than those two, and Green Bay needed all the help they could get that day as their offense struggled all game long. 2011. Does Kyle Williams being a double agent for the Giants in the NFC Championship game count as an asterisk? I'm kidding, of course. Kind of. There was no scandal that took place for the Giants in 2011 to take away from their title, unless you think two players comically faking injuries in the same play versus a shitty Rams team warrants an asterisk. 2011 was the best season of Eli Manning's career, and there's no question the team doesn't win in 2011 without him, especially with his throw to Mario Manningham late in Super Bowl 46. So just like with the 2007 edition, the real asterisk here is how the only reason Eli was on the team in the first place was due to him bucking the draft process and not playing for the team that actually drafted him. I'm not too angry about this though, since New York once again stopped that bitch fraud Tom Brady from winning another ring. 2012. The 2012 Ravens won the Super Bowl thanks to Joe Flacco's legendary postseason, when he threw 11 touchdowns and no picks on his way to Super Bowl 47 MVP. The thing is though, the Ravens should have lost to Denver in the divisional round. Down 35-28 with 41 seconds left from their own 30-yard line on third down with no timeouts, Flacco threw up a prayer that should have been picked, but instead, thanks to Raheem Moore's historic blunder in coverage, Jacoby Jones came down with the ball for a touchdown to tie the game. Baltimore went on to win in double overtime, and Moore's blunder also reset the quarterback contract market forever, as without a Super Bowl ring, Flacco doesn't get his record-setting contract that offseason. 2013. For my money, the best NFL team in the 21st century was the 2013 Seattle Seahawks. They thoroughly embarrassed and dismantled the highest-scoring team in NFL history in the Super Bowl. That doesn't mean they did it without any warts, though. In 2012 and 2013, 5 different Seattle players, including superstar cornerback Richard Sherman, tested positive for PEDs. Sherman won an appeal on a technicality. If this many Seattle players got caught using PEDs in such a short amount of time, imagine how many others on the team were using and didn't get caught. Did PEDs make Seattle's 2013 defense so historic? Not entirely, but it certainly fucking helped. 2014. Everybody knows about Deflategate. There's no doubt Brady willingly deflated the footballs, which is cheating, but no shit. Tom Brady is a cheater. We already knew this. Perhaps if New England had barely squeaked by Indy in the AFC Championship game, I would harp on it more, but New England won by 38 points. They were clearly the superior team. If you want to use this as a reason to slap an asterisk on New England's 2014 title, go ahead. But for me, the real asterisk is the stupidity of Pete Carroll in Seattle. With 26 seconds left in Super Bowl 49, down by 4, Seattle had 2nd and 1 from the Patriots' 1-yard line. Either two things should have happened from this point on. Seattle ran 3 more times with All-Pro running back Marshawn Lynch. It's almost certain he scores the game-winning touchdown on one of the 3 carries, or New England's defense makes a historical goal line stand. Instead, as we all know, Seattle threw a fucking slant pass that was picked off by Malcolm Butler. Either way, once Seattle got to New England's 1-yard line, New England could only win from a fluke occurrence. Seattle's decision was so dumb and so unprecedented that it warrants an asterisk in my opinion. If you don't think it doesn't, then name literally just one other example in NFL history of a similar play happening under the same circumstances. You can. 2015. Denver's biggest asterisk in 2015 would have to be that Derek Wolfe got hit with a 4-game PED ban. Wolfe wasn't a great player, but he did have 2.5 sacks in the playoffs, so he played a notable role in Denver's dominant defense. The other asterisk would have to be that Denver didn't have to play against Pittsburgh All-Pro wide receiver Antonio Brown in the playoffs. Brown had a monster 189-yard, 2-touchdown day against Denver in the regular season, a game which Denver lost, but he was out with a concussion for the second matchup, which Denver won by just 7 points. Denver also benefited from a missed extra point by New England's All-Pro kicker Stephen Gostkowski in the AFC Championship game. I point this out because 2015 was the first year the NFL moved the extra point distance back to 33 yards. All of these small but important events were just enough to get Denver across the finish line. 2016. Whereas New England's 2014 title deserved an asterisk due to one decision by their opponent that was so dumb and unprecedented, their 2016 title deserves an asterisk due to an unprecedented amount of unlikely occurrences happening in such rapid succession to benefit them. As we all know, New England fell behind 28-3 in Super Bowl 51 versus Atlanta. An Atlanta team which, by the way, had a top 10 offense ever. In the final 17 minutes of Super Bowl 51, this top 10 offense ever got the ball inside New England's 32-yard line not once, but twice. Just one field goal would have been enough to put the game away. But both times Atlanta got hit with holding penalties and decided to throw instead of run the ball to push themselves out of field goal range. This is to say nothing about a Super Bowl clinching INT that was dropped by Robert Alford that just so happened to be caught for 23 yards somehow by Julian Edelman. Did I mention New England also converted 2 two-point conversions in which Brady never threw the ball past the line of scrimmage? Or the fact that New England won the overtime coin toss? Or the fact that New England's defense forced a strip sack of Matt Ryan deep in Atlanta territory in the 4th quarter? Much like with 2014, if you don't think this is worthy of an asterisk, I simply ask you to show me another example in NFL history where an all-time great offense blew a 25-point lead in the last 17 minutes of a Super Bowl. It shouldn't be that hard, right? 2017. In terms of drug scandals or fluke plays going in their favor in big moments, the 2017 Eagles really didn't have any. The luckiest play they had was versus Atlanta in the divisional round at the end of the first half when Nick Foles, perhaps distracted by his giant penis, threw a pass that should have been picked off but instead bounced back to Torrey Smith for a 20-yard gain. Philly kicked a field goal to make it 10-9 at halftime thanks to this. If not for that field goal, Atlanta could have just kicked a chip shot field goal at the end to win instead of needing a touchdown, but I think we can all admit that that's a bit of a stretch as there was tons of game time played between those two events. For my money, I would say the biggest asterisk the 2017 Eagles had was not having to face Drew Brees in the NFC Championship game thanks to the Minnesota Miracle the week before. Philly instead promptly blew out the Case Keenum-led Vikings 38-7 in the NFC Championship game. It was awesome. Some say Philly benefited from New England's mysterious benching of Malcolm Butler in Super Bowl 52, but to me that's comical. New England fans and Brady fans act like Butler was prime Revis or Dion. It's similar to Warriors fans saying they blew a 3-1 lead in the 2016 finals because Andrew Bogut got hurt, as if he was prime Shaq. Grow up and take your L like a